Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to continue our Tesla road trip series when we went on our Christmas adventure road trip from the December of 2019 into January of 2020. And we drove in our 2015 Tesla Model S 85D from the Salt Lake City, Utah area to the Orlando, Florida area. We did this with my young family of 5. We have 3 daughters, 2, 3, and 5 years old. And so I wanted to create this road trip series of videos because I was getting so many questions from family and friends and coworkers that were surprised that we could do a cross-country road trip with our young family and no less do it in an electric vehicle, and they wanted to see how that went. So I decided to go ahead and create this series, and this today is the 11th of the series. If you're interested in seeing any of my prior videos, just click here on this card that will pop out right there, and that will be a playlist and you can see all of the prior videos. We have one more video after today, so it's going to be day 12, and we're going to be driving from Phoenix, Arizona up to the Salt Lake City, Utah area. Today's video, though, is going to be driving from El Paso, Texas to Phoenix, Arizona. So it's not a terribly long drive, and so I decided to combine 2 days here in today's video. The second video in today is actually just us having a fun day in Phoenix, Arizona with friends. So we don't do any significant drives. We're staying overnight at our friend's house for 2 nights in a row. So let's jump into it. You girls feeling sick? Yeah. That's a bummer, huh? So this is where we stayed last night, just in a room past that swimming pool, which is dry and empty. And it is right here next to the freeway, so it's pretty loud. And the car has frost on it, so we know it got cold last night. In general, you get what you pay for in life, and this hotel room was an example of that. Wasn't the greatest experience, but it was the cheapest one. This one, after taxes and everything, was $70.50, which is nearly half of the price of the hotel in Mobile, Alabama, for instance, which I think was our most expensive one. The kids are kind of at their end of willingness to go on this trip, but we still have to get home. We're going to get on the road and hope that they're able to get a little bit better through the drive today. We're going to be driving about 8 hours today, and we're planning on going to Phoenix, Arizona today. All right, we've been on the road now for 15 miles. We're at 77% battery, estimated arrival of 35%. And we're in Anthony, New Mexico. We just barely crossed the border into New Mexico. We're going to be going for another hour and 7 minutes before we get to Deming, New Mexico. Outside it is 39 degrees, and I guess that's about all there is to mention. We're going 80 miles per hour. The regen is limited, as you can see right here with these yellow dashes. But that's just because the battery was cold and it's warming up and the dashes are slowly going away. And what I would also add is the girls are generally not feeling great. Lucy there is luckily asleep now, but she's been threatening to throw up. And Lydia's hiding behind the blanket. Hey, Lydia. And Clara wants a snack, even though we just barely ate breakfast, of course. News update. Lucy's feeling better. Are you feeling better, Lucy? And Clara is still saying so still. Going to be 36 more Supercharger. Haven't seen it yet, but supposedly it is right in this parking lot. But we're arriving with 34%. It had estimated 35, so we're doing pretty good. So we're going to get plugged in. We'll be here for about 35 minutes estimated, and then we'll get back on the road. Oh yes, there they are. If you're not familiar with Teslafy, it is a web service that you can connect to the Tesla API and authorize it with your Tesla account, and it pulls down all of the information about your car as you're driving and charging. And so this is the screen of Teslafy for Friday, January 3rd of 2020, which is this day. And looking at that first drive of the day, we drove from El Paso, Texas to Deming, New Mexico, and that was an hour and 15 minutes of driving. And we drove 95.6 miles, and we had a 420 watt-hour per mile, or 71.3% efficient. It also shows us in this bar down here the elevation changes we drove. And so you can see right here we went up quite steeply for a very short section of time there, and then it went back down a little bit and then back up. And so the total difference from start to end was 549 feet, which is really not all that much, but we can see that the gain was quite a bit initially over here, and then we had a 830 foot loss, so the total difference was 549. Hey Lucy, what are you doing right now?
Watching a show.
Watching a show? What show are you watching?
Monsters Inc.
Monsters Inc. We're getting them hooked up to watch a show, and we're gonna get back on the road. All right, we're gonna unplug and get going. We are down to 32 kilowatts charge rate, 80% on the battery. It's estimating 5 more minutes, but it has us arriving in Wilcox, Arizona at 12%, which is good enough for us. So we're gonna get started. The kids are in the back watching a movie on the screen. We put up the big screen, so if you can see them there happily eating their snacks and watching the movie. We have that suctioned onto the glass ceiling with these Sea-Sucker suction cup mounts. All right, let's get started. Testify shows that we were at the Deming Supercharger for 45 minutes, and we started at 35% and ended at 81% battery state of charge. Now that is a slower range of charge to do. Typically we would plug in at 10% or thereabouts and then unplug at closer to 60%, at least in this particular energy span. The reason for this being what it was is that we obviously had just left the hotel in the morning at nearly full charge, and so we arrived at 35%, and then we needed to be at 81% to go on to the next supercharger. The reason why this is a slower range is because the emptier a battery is, the faster it will charge. And so when we plugged in here, we were already not at the fastest charge rate, so we were not getting electricity as quickly as we could have if we had run the battery a little bit lower. That's just a general rule of thumb for EVs in general. Looking across the rest of this, you can see it has some other stats in Testify, like the number of rated miles that were added and what it had originally estimated that we'd plug in for 35 minutes total. In this case, we probably charged for a little bit longer than we really needed to, but it's okay. The kids just finished watching their movie, and we are down now to 15% battery. We are estimated to arrive at 14%. We will be there in about 5 minutes to Wilcox, Arizona. The segment of driving from Deming, New Mexico to Wilcox, Arizona was an hour and 44 minutes, and we drove 136 miles, and we drove at 78.4% efficiency. Looking at the elevation graph here, you can see we actually went down in elevation quite a bit here and then went back up. So that just the difference there. We're regenerating electricity going down here, but then we use that going up here, and there are some efficiency losses going at any time electricity is going in or out of the battery. So in any case, that affected the efficiency to some degree. At freeway speeds, like 80 miles an hour like we're going, you can see here our average was 78 miles per hour. I've typically seen the efficiency at 80% is pretty typical. So this is just a little bit lower, and that's not that bad. We've arrived at the Wilcox Supercharger. It's estimating 45 minutes, and the charge rate is still ramping up here. However, I don't anticipate needing to actually charge for that long. I'm just checking to see here what the charge rate is going to get up to, and then I'll show you why. So we actually ended up arriving here with 14% battery rather than the 12 that it estimated. Oh, look at that. Yeah, we got up into the 120, so that's great. So the reason why is if we switch over here to the Supercharger map, it's showing that we're here, and it's having us go all the way over here to Casa Grande. But there is a supercharger over here in Tucson. It doesn't show it unless you tap on this icon right here, and then you'll see that there are actually 2 in Tucson, but this one right here is right off the interstate. I don't really know why it doesn't have us going there, but I want to charge less here and then just go straight there so that we stay in the faster charge rates. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to cancel out the whole thing, and then I'm going to tap there on the Tucson Supercharger and then manually route us. So now it has us estimated to charge here for 20 minutes before we'll take off again. So that's what we're going to do. We ended up charging for 25 minutes, as you can see here in Testify, and we went from 14% to 54% battery. And that's a charge rate of 95% efficiency, which means that we were in the car with HVAC system running and other electronics for part of that. So some of the power went to that powering those electronics rather than the battery, and so that's what that means. All right, it took us a little while to get the kids back in the car, so now we're going to be arriving at the Tucson Supercharger with 27%. So we're not going to need to be there for terribly long, but we're still going to hit it up, and then we'll get back on the road. There's some beautiful vistas along here. We've gotten thoroughly into the mountain country now, and maybe I missed the best part, the best view, but it's really cool looking. Most of the way through the Tucson trip. I wanted to point out the consumption graph here. You can see it spiked at nearly 800 watt hours per mile, but the average is still low. It was That drive from Willcox, Arizona to Tucson, Arizona was 53 minutes, and we drove for nearly 70 miles, and we had 90% efficiency, which is excellent. That's actually almost even 91% efficiency. Now, that being said, if you look over here, you can see we had a negative elevation loss of 1,243 feet. So downhill, that's why we got that high efficiency. It probably would have been in the high 70s to 80s otherwise. We've plugged in here at Tucson, Arizona, 3 kilowatts, which is great. Because we had a little bit overcharged at the last supercharger, we're starting at a higher charge rate, but a little bit less time being here, and then we'll get back on the road and we'll keep doing this. I guess the Casa Grande is the last one before we get to Phoenix, so we'll just be here a short amount of time and then we'll keep going. We are at 47%, estimated arrival at Casa Grande at 12%, so we're going to say continued trip, and we're going to get started. The Tesla Stats for the Tucson, Arizona Supercharger shows that we were only there for 15 minutes, which is about one of the shortest superchargers at 48% battery state of charge, and we charged at 93.5% efficiency because we were just sitting in the car the whole time, and it was getting a little bit warmer outside, and so some of the AC was on from the sun. That's a pretty low charge efficiency in my experience, but we usually get out of the car and run around, and in this case we didn't. It was just such a short stop. The kids weren't so cranky that we needed to get them out of the car, so we just stayed in the car the whole time. The drive from Tucson, Arizona to Casa Grande, Arizona was an hour and 1 minute, and we drove for nearly 80 miles, and we drove at 90.6% efficiency. So great, that was high efficiency, but once again, a lot of elevation loss, 1,500 feet to be exact. So pretty much you can see a consistent downhill grade this whole time, and so yeah, great efficiency whenever you're going downhill, obviously. Plus you can see the wind was fairly manageable at 5.5, probably a headwind if I remember correctly. Otherwise the efficiency maybe would have been even higher. We have arrived at the Casa Grande Supercharger station, and as you can hear, Lucy still doesn't feel terribly well. The other two are relatively okay, but they are tired of being in the car, but I think we all are at this point. And so, looking here, we have routed ourselves to Phoenix, Arizona, to our destination, and we have 20 more minutes remaining. Right now it's estimating that we'll arrive at negative 4%, so we're going to get to positive 10%, and then we'll take off. Incidentally, this supercharger station, you probably can't see from here, but it's completely filled, so there's a lot of people here charging up. It's gotten a lot warmer. It's 64 degrees outside. We're 21, and it has limited our charging, which is fine. We weren't going to charge up past 80% anyway today. So What do you think so far today, Lydia?
Do you have a fever?
Don't have much to say? No, she doesn't. You ready to see your friends? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. 20 more minutes and then we're getting out of here. Hey, baby. Are you having fun climbing around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you show Daddy your scary voice?
You want to scare me? Ah! Our estimated arrival percentage is 12, which is more than enough. So we're going to get on the road. We have 38% in the battery and we're at 57 kilowatts, which is about what it's been the whole time here because we're sharing this circuit with another car. So let's get going. The charging there at the Casa Grande Supercharger was for only 20 minutes, from 14% to 38% battery, and that was a charge rate of 98.9% efficiency. The drive from Casa Grande to our friend's house in Phoenix, Arizona was 59 minutes, 58 miles, and we got 87.1% efficiency. You can see here there was pretty dramatic downhill grade here in this section and then just pretty flat for the rest of it. So a total of negative 410 feet of elevation change. You can see outside we were getting into the 60s at this point, the high 60s. Our average speed for this section was 57 miles per hour. So relatively slow throughout a part of that, so I'm sure that's why this is fairly high efficiency, but you know, going downhill obviously makes a difference as well. We've arrived at our destination in Phoenix and we got here at 13%, which is as anticipated. So that was a perfectly planned drive as far as the trip planner is concerned. Alright, I'm in the garage of our friend's house and I've checked out their plug that they had said they had and it works great. So if you look over here, this is the door into the garage, and they have a NEMA 1430 outlet here that's just behind the dryer, and I have, I don't know how well you can see that, but there's my adapter and then the extension cord coming down here, and then here outside it's probably hard to see, but they have, I have the cord coming along over here, and I needed the extension cord even though I only needed about 6 feet, and then comes down this way. I could have backed in, of course, and then we would have not needed the extension cord, but this is easier. There we go. It's charging. Of course, it's important to come in here and turn down the amperage. I'm going to put this to 24 amps. And we should be good to go. Oh, and you can see here that's estimating, well, it's still counting. Looks like we're getting up to what I would expect, around 12 hours. It's set to 100 actually. Let's move this down to 90%. There we go, yep. Oh, wow, jumping around a lot still. 11 hours, it looks like is where we're at. Alright, well, we're gonna leave this charging overnight and it should be done in time tomorrow for when we need it. Testify shows that when we plugged in there at our friend's house, we were charging for a total of almost 11 hours. That went from 12% to 90% battery state of charge, and we added 58 kilowatt hours into the battery, but we actually consumed 63 kilowatt hours from the friend's house. Once again, we had offered to pay for the electricity, but they declined and were happy to have us visit them. So that charged at nearly 92% efficiency. Now remember that charge, that speed over here of 11 hours to go that difference, it was based off of this 24 amperage rate that we were on because we were on a 30 amp circuit. So we had to move the Tesla down to 24 amps maximum, and then it was pulling an average of 242 volts. It had originally estimated 11 hours and 10 minutes, so you can see it was just about 15 minutes faster than that. So it's usually fairly accurate once you've plugged it in for a minute and it's had a chance to kind of level out on its time estimation. So let's look at the entire map for the whole day. That's this map down here at the bottom of Teslafy. We can click on this full screen option right there, and it makes the map full screen. And we can see that the route was just Interstate 10 the entire day, basically, starting over here in El Paso and cruising along over here through to Phoenix. Not a whole lot to look at. Let's look at the entire stats for the whole day. Teslafy will aggregate your statistics, and so we can just look at that here. There's some information there relating to sleeping of the car and the HVAC system when you're not driving, etc. Looking at the drives, we actually had 5 different drives in the day. This measures each time you put the car in park and then put it in drive again. So total, we drove a 439 mile day, so about half of our longest day that we've done so far on this trip. Rated miles used was 539, so it gives you an idea of our inefficiency going at these high freeway speeds, but it tells you the actual efficiency here was 81.46% for the whole day. Time driving was nearly 6 hours, and then kilowatt hours used was 161.68 kilowatt hours, and that's a watt hour per mile average of 368. Total cost would have been $17.62 if we were paying for the supercharging, and then compared to a gasoline car at 25 miles per gallon and paying $2.50 per gallon, which is about what the price of gas was at the time of this trip, we saved almost $44 in this one day. And then the average temperature of the day was 52.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Supercharging wise, we added 100 kilowatt hours at Superchargers, and that's 343 rated miles. And then we charged for a total of an hour and 45 minutes. So compared to yesterday, with it being really windy and having a longer drive, we really did not spend very much time at Superchargers on this particular day at all. Down here where it says travel charge, that is when we plugged into the dryer outlet at our friend's house, and on that charge session overnight, we added 58.53 kilowatt hours, which is 201 rated miles, and then it was charging for 10 hours and 54 minutes. Okay, so that was the end of the first day of this video, the travel day. And so now let's jump into the second day, and I'll show you how our hike went in Phoenix, Arizona. We're on the highway. We started the day today with 90%, and we are heading to a trailhead up here to go hiking. So we're in Phoenix, Arizona. We're gonna go hiking, have a fun day, and we'll be heading home tomorrow. We're going through Quick Quack Car Wash again. Oh, there's the lights.
You see it?
I see. I love
Blue soap! And green soap!
Purple! Look at the front!
Oh yeah! Oh, look at that, Lucy!
Rainbow!
Pretty cool.
Mommy, it's rainbow on my side.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh look, Claire, it's green!
Oh.
Now we need a lot of water
That drive out to go hiking was a total of 32 minutes of driving and 22.49 miles, so really not that far away. We had 71% efficiency on that drive, probably because the car was cold in the morning and we were warming it up, and when you go a short distance and it's cold outside, that you typically have pretty low efficiency. Plus you can see the elevation gain here was 344 feet, so that's going to contribute to it just a little bit. All right, we are getting started on our hike. Since Lucy isn't feeling well, I am carrying her on my back. Hey, Lucy. How are you feeling now? How are you feeling? Oh, I'm sorry. We have here the other girls in front of us, all holding hands. You girls are cute.
Thank you, Daddy. Whoa.
Alright, this is the Shaw Butte recreation area. Luckily we're here in the winter, so we don't really... She's collecting rocks. Never mind. That was a short-lived hobby. We're going up this hill. We'll see if we get to the top or not. I think Lucy can make it as long as I can. The real question is these other two.
We only have one on the backpack.
Right.
Ross for who gets it.
Alright, we've gotten to a lookout point. We're just to a partial lookout. We're not at the peak at all.
Or at bigger targets. But like,
here's the view.
it's got my car and this car right there. You like that thing?
There's our Tesla parked.
They're almost all C parts C. Exactly. So weird.
Look at that fantastic solar array. Another big one right next to it. And then looking out across the city, you can see there's several others. They obviously have an amazing sunny climate here for solar, and they have to use a lot of air conditioning, so it definitely makes sense to install it. We finished checking out the peak, well, a sub peak, and now we are on our way up to the main peak. Hey Lydia. Hi. You're a great hiker.
Hey,
Clara.
what's the season for Salome dress?
Poor Lucy. She's not feeling well still, but she was able to hack it here in the carrier for the whole hike, which I think was about 2 miles round trip. I'll have to look it up when I get home and I'll show you. It was a fun hike, very simple for sure, but considering the circumstances, I think it was perfect. So we're about to get back to the car and then we're going to head back over to our friend's house. Clara's fallen asleep too. And Lydia,
But I mean, it looks ridiculous.
Lydia, do you feel accomplished?
Great.
Yeah? You did a great job of doing that hike.
Thank you.
No, it was a hat.
That was awesome. I've never seen you hike so well.
You've been training your whole life for this, Lydia.
The drive home from that hike was obviously just basically a reversal of the previous drive of the day. We drove for 22 minutes though. The reason why we'd driven for 10 minutes longer on this other one is because we went through that car wash. So on the way home we didn't obviously go through the car wash. We drove at 100.4% efficiency, so this is maybe the only example you'll ever see where it's almost perfectly the rated miles that the car is designed to consume on average. So 299 watt-hours per mile, and it's rated for 300 watt-hours per mile. And it was going downhill to do that. And so it used up 8% of the battery to go that distance. Hey, so we are back at our friend's house, and on this trip in general, I have generally used the NEMA 1450 extension cord when charging our Tesla. And in this case, at this house, last night when we pulled into the garage, we did use that extension cord and needed to because we pulled straight in. But I wanted to show how at this house, their location of things makes it so that if we backed in, we actually don't need to use the extension cord, although we do still need the NEMA 1430 adapter that we have because we don't have Tesla's NEMA 1430 adapter. But if we did have the Tesla version, which is technically safer to use, I guess, if you don't want to manually adjust the amperage yourself. So what I have here I want to show you is this this NEMA 1430 adapter. So you can see this right here is NEMA 1430, and then the other end of this adapter is a NEMA 1450. And then what we have is the NEMA 1450 adapter. Came with our Tesla. Unfortunately, the new Model 3s don't come with these, and I don't think any of the cars do. Anyway, so we can now put this. We can put these together. There we go. So we have the NEMA 1450 to NEMA 1430 adapter. So then what I'm going to do is go plug this in to the dryer outlet in their house. So this is their garage door into the house, or this house. And in here, conveniently, is their washer and dryer right here next to this door. So I'm going to get this plugged in and show you the results. So there we have it plugged in, and then you can see that that's the adapter I just showed you. Here's the base, whatever that is called, the circuitry of the EVSC that came with the Tesla. Then the cord comes down over this way. So I'm going to now grab this handle, and you'll see it works just as usual and easily reaches with lots of excess. So I'm going to push the button here. And wait for the car to turn on. There we go. There we go. Charging just like that. And so we have tons of excess cable in this particular case, but you won't always find homes that have this much or this short of a distance from the door to the laundry facilities, or the back door. And so in cases where the facilities are way different, then those are situations where obviously you need the extension cord. We've used the extension cord pretty much every time we've charged at someone's house on this trip, so I think it's very much worth having. Another thing in regards to the extension cord is how heavy it is. Makes it really hard to coil. And so what I found works well is just to leave it on the ground. You'll see that it makes it much easier to not have to hold it because it's such a heavy cable. And then once you get it all coiled up, then I take the straps that it came with, and I just simply tied those handles together. So it came with this handy strap right here with a plastic handle. So I run that strap through underneath the whole coil, and then through the handles here on the grips. And then I can just lock all that together. And just like that, it is then a much easier bundle to hold and put up here. When we got back to our friend's house from that hike, we of course plugged the car back in and charged for 3 hours to overcome those 45 or so miles driven up here for the day. It charged from 69 to 90% and consumed 17.4 kilowatt hours from their house to do that, so it charged at 90% efficiency. Keep in mind lower voltage charge rates, like if we had plugged in via a 120 volt 15 amp standard household outlet, it would have had a charge efficiency probably closer to about 75% based on my experience. Our driving for the day is shown down here on the map. Not very terribly interesting to look at, but up here is where we went on that hike, and you can see this was the Shaw Butte Trail, and we parked up here in this neighborhood and then just walked along the street there, and then the trailhead started right here. I'll go ahead and zoom in on this, and so that's the area that we actually hiked. And then right here is that outlook that we initially stopped at and looked at the view, and then we continued up the trail for a bit, but we didn't get to the entire the peak up here just because the group we were with and the kids, and we didn't feel like it was pertinent to get all the way to the very top, but we still had fun hiking. One way that was 0.8 miles, so 1.6 miles round trip. We were hiking for probably a total of 45 minutes, including stopping and looking at the view and whatnot. So if I zoom out here a bit, you can see where that is in Phoenix. And there are a lot of little mountain outcroppings like this in Phoenix where you can do hikes all over the place in this valley. Looking at the aggregate statistics for the whole day, it's not terribly interesting because there's only 2 drives here, but we can see we drove a total of 44 miles, used up 53 rated miles, efficiency of 83% almost. We drove for almost a total of an hour there and used up 16 kilowatt hours in the day. Average temperature was 59 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the charge at our friend's house here has the same stats as what I mentioned earlier. I hope this video has been informative for you to see what a Tesla is capable of and how well it performs on a road trip with a young family especially. If you are interested in purchasing a Tesla for yourself, feel free to use my referral code down below and you'll get 1,000 free supercharger miles. And if you're going to install Tesla Solar, you can use my referral code for that as well, and you'll get $250 off of your solar installation. If you have any questions about my Tesla or any of my experience, feel free to post those in the comments down below and I will be sure and get back with you. And if you'd like to see additional videos like this, I would ask that you were subscribed to my channel. That way you'll be able to get all the notifications as I post a new video every Friday. And I hope to be able to help you on your journey to discover electric vehicles and how wonderful they are. Frankly, it's the best road trip car I've ever owned. And so I just want to share that with others and show them what it's, how good it works. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.